If I had to look back on it, like having a child at 18, you don't know what you're doing. You are literally learning along the way and making a lot of mistakes. And you're essentially at some point growing up together with this child that you may have, right? So for me, it was challenging trying to figure out who my identity was at 18, young father, young husband, new to the military, have no idea. I'm learning all about all of this, right? So it was very challenging. What I do remember about it, I was committed to figuring it out.
Meet Major Terrance Pitts, a distinguished military leader with over 26 years of service to the United States Army. Thank you for your service, Terrance.
You're welcome, Lisa.
Born in Lake Providence, Louisiana, and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, Terrance began his Army career in 1998, rising to the rank of Sergeant First Class before commissioning as a second lieutenant through the Officer Candidate School. As a communications officer in the elite United States Signal Corps, he served in critical roles across the Army. With dual master's degrees in human resource development and information technology management from Webster University, Terrance combines his strategic leadership and technical proficiency. His career spans both conventional and special ops units, including 2 combat tours to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. A recipient of numerous accolades, Terrance's commitment to excellence is undeniable. And I know that. He has amassed a wealth of experience throughout his distinguished career, serving in various key positions within United States Army Forces Command, United States Army Recruiting Command, Pentagon, and now United States Central Command. This multifaceted experience has enabled him to navigate complex challenges and consistently yield optimal results, reflecting his exceptional competence and dedication to the mission. Beyond the uniform, which is what we're going to talk about most today, Terrance is a dedicated husband to Erica, proud father of 2 sons, and currently pursuing a secondary career as an executive coach, trainer, and speaker. His passion for leadership, mentorship, and communication is evident in his efforts to inspire the next generation of Army officers. Tune in to hear thoughts on building resilient leaders, navigating complex challenges, and the journey that shapes a successful military career. Holy shitballs. You're an incredible man.
Thanks, Lisa.
Who knew? Who knew?
Right?
Who knew? So I'm 44. How old are you now?
44.
When's your birthday?
June 28th.
Okay, so you just turned 44.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. Who knew? Yeah. Who knew when we were kids at Cheyenne High School that your career would develop in such a way and that we would be here talking about leadership development?
Right.
You were, in my eyes, who I remember from high school, an athlete and a jokester.
For sure.
You were always making people laugh.
For sure.
And I was too serious for my own good in high school. Way too serious.
But focused, though.
I was focused.
Yes.
Yeah, I was focused. And what we know now about you is that you're super focused. So Terrance and I reconnected. So we were in high school together. We parted ways after graduation. Terrance, you joined the military and also became a young father.
Yeah.
So your first son was born when you were how old?
18.
18. And now come back, Milo, right? Is that your current, he's how old now?
2.
2. So your oldest is old enough to be your youngest's dad, right?
That's one way. Yes.
Yeah. Compared to your experience. But when we parted ways in high school, I didn't know if I'd ever see you again.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And then I don't remember how we reconnected originally. Do you?
So I got stationed in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Where I was in charge of the Las Vegas recruiting company. I'm out there. And then so you were doing your leadership, business, socials, and different things like that. We reconnected, got spun up on life, during that time period, and also getting to know Connor a little bit better. And so we kind of picked up from there. And then from since that time period, we've kept in contact.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so wonderful to see you again. And then also with Connor. So backstory, Connor was going through some stuff, 8, 9. So Connor growing up, he's my 16-year-old. I can't believe he's 16 already. He's my 16-year-old. And I knew literally like within a few days of his life that he was going to be my biggest lesson. I mean, he
Right.
came out of the womb bossing me around. And I knew he's headstrong and he does things his own way and he wants to take the lead. I don't know where he gets that from. And has challenged me every step of the way. And at that time, 8 and 9 years old, what had transpired for Connor. So this is all kind of a point in his life and my life where we were up against it. His dad had fallen into addiction. And Connor was acting out in ways at school, kind of as a jokester, kind of as a class clown, which I'm sure you know nothing about. Um, and I was looking for strong male presences in his life, and you without question stepped in and
Yeah.
said, I will be there for you. And I thought at that point, I was just going to take him into the Army Recruiting Center and you were going to give him some walk around, which he was so proud of. He was so proud to get the Army gear and sit down with you and men in uniform. He absolutely loved you. But it didn't stop there. And this is a testament to the person that you are. You kept in touch with him.
Yeah.
You kept the relationship going. And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. One of the things I remember growing up, right? We're in school and I think it was elementary back in the days where we were really big on pen pals. And so my way of connecting with Connor was to handwrite him letters, right? To get him to engage and kind of open up. And we started just exchanging letters, exchanging pictures, that kind of thing. So it was good for the both of us.
Yeah. What was good about it for you? Because I remember you were all over the world sending him letters.
I was, when there's moments that you're going through different challenges in different organizations, and really it was a distraction, but a healthy distraction because Connor, needed a positive role model. You and I had talked. And then he also showed a good interest in, his family background is military. So he was all in on, hey, tell me anything that you could tell me about the military. And I was exchanging information and sending him pictures. So it was like good for the both of us for me to share a little bit of my life to help him out of what he was interested in. And then for
Mm-hmm.
him to kind of feel like he's in a trusted relationship to kind of open up. So it worked out both sides.
Yeah. And he's a teenager, right? So teenage boys in particular, like getting anything out of him, I get 2 words out of him sometimes. How was your day? Good. They don't want to talk, but he does make time for you, which is really cool. And that's a
Yeah,
testament to,
whenever I'm talking to Connor, he's very much dialed in into the conversation. Like his conversations are thought out. He knows what he wants to do, what he wants to talk about. He's very critical in his, I guess I would say, his analysis of what he wants to do next. Is very calculated, should I say. So some of it kind of reminds me of myself. And
Mhm.
then, I'm sitting there back listening like now, like, man, Connor's grown up so much. Like he's not the 8-year or 9-year-old anymore. He's like really he's having life, life decisions, life conversations with me about like what he's doing next, right? And it's already thought out,
Yeah.
into his early adult years, which sometimes kind of scary when I'm talking to him, but I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah. Well, I think that I've been very intentional with giving him and pointing him in directions, letting him choose. And I
Right,
think I think that's a good way to segue into leadership in general,
right,
because what we're here to talk about today and so here's my goal on the show always, Terrence, is that there is one person that listens to this conversation that is meant, like they're listening to this conversation right here, right now, and they're saying this was meant for me.
right.
And if that happens, we did our job.
I agree.
And wrapping around to leadership, the reason I have you on the show today is that you have had what now? How many years? 25 years in the military.
26 as of
26 years in the
last month.
military.
Mhm.
Yeah. You've had a journey of leadership. Did you know when we were kids that this was your journey? Did you know that you were going to go into the military? What did you think was going to happen when you were a kid?
I thought from back to your earlier point of being in sports, right? I always wanted to be a professional track athlete. So my
Mm-hmm.
time at Cheyenne High School, I just knew I was going to go be a professional athlete. The start, sky's the limit kind of conversation, in my head. And then life happens, and you just adjust from there. And so I
What
think at the time,
happened? What
so
happened?
having my son, you mentioned it earlier, having my son as we were graduating high school, June of 98. I had a track scholarship to Idaho State University. I was going to go there. And then I just made the decision myself, really. I don't know where the thought came from, but I just didn't want to take on the load of being a young father, hitting the books, and then also worrying about the life of being an athlete. So for me, it was just like, how can I immediately step into a more responsible role to be able to, take care of my son? And so the easy button at the time was join the military, immediate benefits and stuff like that. So I took that
Mm-hmm.
route. I didn't look back. I kind of like took everything in that came with it. It was a blessing in disguise because I didn't give up my track career per se. I ended up trying out for the all army track and field team. I made it, competed, great experience, right, and was able to kind of have the best of both worlds, right. I get the chance to really continue to be an athlete, which I love running track, and then also I get to focus on being a responsible father. So it
Hmm.
worked out.
Let me just take a right turn and make the best out of it.
Okay.
What'd your family think? Okay, first of all, I did not, looking back, maybe in high school, I knew that you and, is it Janine? No, who was it? Janine were pregnant, but I don't remember it being a topic of conversation on campus.
No, it wasn't. It kind of happened right before we graduated.
Yeah, clearly he was born in June, right? Like,
Well, he ended up being born in February.
oh, I gotcha.
February of
Okay,
99.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so none of us really knew. And we all just were like, okay, we're graduating, we're moving on.
A lot of different moving pieces because everybody was going to do something different and going to different schools. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we all just assumed that that's the route we were going. What were the conversations going on at home at that time?
I would probably say that my mom was not pleased with being having a child on the way at 18. I would even circle back to the left. Before that, there was a lot of pressure of like, what are you doing, right? What are you doing
Mm-hmm.
with your life? What are you going to do? I was very confident that I was going to get a track scholarship. My mom, on the other hand, was not. So what I did do, which is different than times now, I was already writing letters to colleges, sharing newspaper clippings back in the day from the Las Vegas Review Journal of like my times and really advocating for myself. So I was very confident that I was going to get a scholarship somewhere. It was just a matter of when. And it literally came the month before we graduated high school. And then here comes the life turn at the same time. So it was a quick flash to bang of like, figure it out. And my mom didn't make that decision. In fact, she did not want me to join the military. I tried to do it as soon as I could. At the time, I was 17. She says, I'm not going to sign anything with a recruiter. You need to figure out another plan. So I just waited till I turned 18 and just did it myself because it was something I felt that I need to do for myself. I got to figure this out and really
Mm-hmm.
to take that responsibility off her. And I don't even know where this frame of mind came from. That's why I feel like when I'm talking to Connor, sometimes I feel like I'm listening to myself, my younger self, when I'm listening to Connor, because he's thinking through all these things at such a young age.
Mm-hmm. There's something to be said about Gen X. And I think that what I believe is different from our generation from other generations in a very large mass kind of conversation way is that I even my household, I didn't get a lot of you have to do this.
Right.
The choices I made from a very young age were choices that I made because I wanted to do them. And I don't know your relationship with your mom, but you've always been a headstrong kind of person. Like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to go after. This is what I'm going to go do. And a lot of Gen Xers, that what other choice did we have? Because I knew no one else was going to make it happen for me.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's true.
I tried to honor that and hone that with Connor at a very young age of like, hey, you are who you are. Let me just help encourage the interests that you have and lead you down the path to meet people. Because what I know now is that the people that you know and the people that you're around are the people that end up impacting your future.
Right.
Which is exactly why I connected him with you. I had a friend, Matt, who was in the police, who had just become a police officer. I connected him with Matt because he was drawn to people in uniform. He was always drawn to people in uniform. So I was like, well, let me get him connected to as many people as I can so he can learn and then he can guide himself and make decisions. But he's not going to listen to me anyway. I'm his mom. He knows I love him, but yeah. So one of the questions that I get from parents the most when we talk about money mindset is how, like for parents, how do we not mess up our kids? And I would say one of the lessons that I've learned is independence. Give them the independence and the freedom to make their own choices.
Right.
What would you say is one of those things?
I would say that, which is very much along with what you just said, right? And essentially just let them blaze their own path, right? Because although we may be in a position where we have some life experiences and have made mistakes, it doesn't mean that if we give them a framework to follow, they're going to follow it, and or if we provide the lessons that we've learned, if they're going to follow it, right? And I think the more you pressure them and box them in, the more defiant they may be, right?
Yep.
So I think like maybe be the guardrails, but don't box them in.
Right. Don't box them in. I think that's so important. So you recently decided that, well, one, your retirement is at some point coming up. Have you made a decision about that?
Not quite.
I feel like we've been talking about it forever. Okay. So at some point you're going to retire.
At some point. Yeah.
And you've already started your journey of leadership coaching.
Right.
So, my husband and I talk about this a lot, and this is male and female, that when you jump into an armed services career at a young age, or paramedic or firefighter or police officer at a young age, you can retire young.
Yeah.
In your 40s or in your 50s. You can retire at 25 years or right?
6 years overdue, if you will, if you want to put that.
I know.
You can retire at 20, so this is right straight out of high school, so for me, it's been a long journey, but it's a good situation to be in when you can retire at 20, right, with full benefits and stuff, so.
Yeah, it's cool. Why did you decide, and it's John Maxwell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to go through the John Maxwell training?
So let's start this, right? So I have a book, Moleskine notebook, I always journal in it, random thoughts. I went back through that book earlier this year and started going through all the things that don't have a line through it, which means that I didn't do it for whatever reason. I saw a note on there that I was interested in the John Maxwell certification program, and I looked at the date that was on there, which was back in 2017. I know that the conference is in Florida. I'm stationed in Florida. What is my excuse?
What was it?
I told myself, if I'll be writing down 2024, this same conversation, and I will have no response other than I procrastinated. So for me, it was like time now. When I look at the spiritual aspect of it, right? Like 7 years later, like signifies completeness, right? So I said, I'm going to do it. And I just told myself to do it. And the part of the reason why I really showed interest in that is years ago I ran across it, and a lot of people think about John Maxwell as just so leadership, intensive. Well, there is a spiritual aspect to it, right? A values-based type organization, which is very much aligned with my upbringing. Like I was in church a lot. I've been involved in a lot of community things. And it really comes down to like adding value to yourself so then you then can add value to other people's lives. So it naturally aligned with who I am and my upbringing.
Mm-hmm. So alignment. 1, you declared it years ago.
Mm-hmm.
2, alignment.
Right.
And then 3, do what you say you're going to do.
For sure.
And that's who you are.
Right.
Those are principles that you live by. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to do what it takes to be a good dad. What was that like for you young in your military career and also a young father?
If I had to look back on it, like having a child at 18, you don't know what you're doing. You are literally learning along the way and making a lot of mistakes. And you're essentially at some point growing up together, right, with this child that you may have,
Mhm.
right? So for me, it was challenging trying to figure out who my identity was at 18. At the time, young father, young husband, new to the military, have no idea. I'm learning all about all of this, right? So it was very challenging. What I do remember about it is that the same thing that you just mentioned, I was committed to figuring it out. And
Mhm.
so at some point, I was not just serving in the military. I would get off work and go work a second job because that was what was needed at the time. And so I just did it, didn't question it, didn't do anything other than just like, I got to do what I have to do, or I have to make this work kind of thing. And so one thing that I learned from being a father at that age is that give yourself some grace, because then I didn't, right? So when I'm looking back, I didn't give myself grace. I made mistakes. I was hard on myself. So, younger self, give yourself some grace. You'll get it right
Mhm.
eventually. Or just keep learning, right? And just be determined to get better at it just in general.
Mhm.
So
What were some of the mistakes that you made that you learned from the most?
not balancing time, so you spend the majority of your day with people in the military. And then you get off of work and you're engaging right back into military like things. And some of it's maybe preparation. Some of it may just be like you just don't have a balance on life, right? You haven't figured out how to balance these obligations that you have over here, and then also your family. So,
Mhm.
with that being said, you kind of miss out on some of the intimate interaction there. And then throughout the years, here comes the different trainings that you have to go to, the field training exercises, the deployments, and you're kind of losing out on more of that time. So some
Mhm.
of it is a sacrifice, and then some of it you got to look at how do I now learn from those situations and then move forward and do something a little bit different.
How did you take those learnings into your new marriage with your new son? What changed
So
for you? Being 18 is crazy anyway, being 22 is crazy anyway, but then being in the military where your life really isn't your life from what I've heard. Like you sign on the dotted line and for a minute, for how long was it for you that you weren't making calls on where you were going when you were going there? How long was that?
I would probably say that I really didn't learn how to navigate my career until I was probably 9 years in, because by then I had learned some things. I had mentors that really started to teach me different things, and I was okay. It's not like I didn't know what was going on, but in terms of just like learning how to truly navigate my career and understand some of the intimate details of how to move around in different meetings, different environments. That's not taught anywhere. So I had people that kind of invested in my life, and I kind of took it from there, and then just kind of refine different processes along the way. So it took some time.
It does take time.
Yeah.
It does take time. Okay, sorry I interrupted you. What learnings did you have you now applied to your new son and your new relationship with him? And you know your first son, is it Jaden?
Jalen.
Jalen, how old is he now?
Jalen's 25.
25. So to both boys,
Yep.
because they both still need you.
Right. So let's start with the oldest, right? Very
Mm-hmm.
similar to what you mentioned about Connor, right? I'm not looking to box Jalen in, right? I want to be the guardrails. I feel like I've learned a little, right? And I've also mindful of mistakes that I made before. And some of it really stems from you got to know who you need to be in those moments, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to always have the dad hat on that's pressuring you. I'm just trying to be your biggest cheerleader, right? So whoever you need me to be in this moment, that's who I'll be. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop myself from sharing some life experiences or giving you some advice. And the advice is not so much even for them to take it. It's just really for consideration. When I pivot and talk about, young 2-year-old Milo, it is learning from things that I didn't do right with Jalen, if you will, right? It's almost like having a second chance at fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stems back to the conversation of the balance. I'm probably going to be in my workspace 12 to 13 hours, maybe 14, adding in the commute, going and coming. So I don't spend that much time at home in general. But when I come home, I am tapped into his world for
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may look like, right? And then trying to just build on that connection and also just kind of understand that I'm not always going to get that right, right? So I may come home and, Milo kind of at 2 years old kind of knows what he wants. So he's
Mm-hmm.
going to let you know what he wants to watch on TV, what he doesn't want to watch, what he wants to see, what he doesn't want. So I'm even getting that wrong. I can pull out a snack and I think this is a winner. And he's like, nope, not having it. Hey, Milo, what do you want to watch on TV? And he talks in his language. So I think like, oh, well, he's been looking at this same cartoon for a while. He'll watch it. Nope.
Nope.
Same bloody murder. So even at my age where I think like, oh, I just remembered he was in tune with this other day. No.
No.
So it's picking up on some of those small nuances, right? Of like being more aware. Awareness is a big thing, for
Mm-hmm.
me in his world. And I think it matters. And I think that genuinely, what I'm learning also from Milo, he's kind of teaching me what like love really looks like.
Mm.
Like
In what way?
he wakes up in the morning smiling all the time for the most part. If I'm getting ready to work, he wants a hug, he wants a kiss, he's saying bye, he's greeting you, so the days when you think that it's bad, it could be worse or whatever's on your mind, his interaction with you kind of brightens up your day.
Hmm.
Like that, smile a little bit more kind of thing. Like, he's like very much, I say, in tune with like his emotions. Like sometimes I feel he's like an old spirit,
Yeah. I think
so
you are too.
just a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. I think you are too. He's a lot like you. Um, I have a similar perspective on being a young parent. So I was 28 when Connor was born. I wasn't ready to be a parent. I was still in my party stage. My friends were still partying. I was trying to work full time, be a mom, and still party. And partying lost over time. Eventually, I had to stop partying because I couldn't do it all.
Mm.
But I don't think I know I did not appreciate who he was at a young age because I was in my own tangled life web still as a young person. And Jimmy and I, my new husband and I always talk about the kind of parents that we would be if we had kids now.
Right.
And I so appreciate that you get to do that with Milo and be present and be mature and have your priorities so clear.
Right.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, Lisa, I don't want to not give you a little insight. Being a parent in your 40s, the energy level of a 2-year-old is unmatched. Like it's unmatched. I think I'm in shape.
You're not.
I'm not in 2-year-old shape, So there's physical fitness tests I got to take in the military, but no, it's not along the lifestyle of a 2-year-old.
He's running you.
Unmatched.
Yeah. Yeah, there's give and takes. So you're emotionally mature, but your body's also mature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so from young men, we're going to talk about money next. I want to lean in though for a minute for young men and women who are in this moment deciding about whether or not they are going to go into the military. Looking at your decision, one, it was, I need to be a dad. I need to be responsible. What made you choose the Army? And then also, what is it? What do you think it's important for young people to know? Because you were an Army recruiter too, about the choice that they're about to make.
Okay, so I'll start here. So I would say this, and generally speaking, I would tell anybody it's a personal choice on what branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
To join, because it's a different culture in each branch. And so you got to understand, I would say, do your research, right? Understand what you are getting into. Some of it is generalized or structured across the board, like college benefits, medical benefits, stuff like that. But understanding the
Mm.
culture and understanding like what kind of trade you're looking to take on, right? And make sure that it's aligned with what you want to do. Funny story about why I joined the Army, right? So I had some buddies. One was in the Air Force, one was in the Marines. I was hanging out with them. They live right around the corner from me. And then the next thing I say to myself is like, what are the branches out there, right? Because I'm curious. Back then you were seeing the Be All You Can Be commercials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot on TV. And so I said, well, they were telling me, hey, I got to take this test. I got to score whatever on the test at the time. It really just came down to it. Like I knew I was about to join the military, and I just chose the Army because it was different from the two that they were in. Like it wasn't a lot of thought, a lot of thought went into it, right? And the only thing for me that was a blessing in disguise was that my recruiter had just come off from being an all Army track and field athlete. So my first
Mm.
interaction with recruiter for me was a win-win. I got to put aside this collegiate track dream. And then here comes this guy telling me, giving me the playbook to go try out. And then also giving me an introductory, meeting on what my next trade was going to be. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
I needed to hurry up and get this party started as quick as possible. So, we graduated in June. I'm in basic training in September.
Wow.
I'd already did paperwork late August, so I'm just hanging around Vegas ready to leave. And so for me, I would tell people, do your research, understand your why, consider your long-term goals. And it's nothing wrong with, you don't have to make this a career, right? If you get in and decide that your first enlistment is just what you want to do, then great. But I think the experience alone are going to give you some tools that you can't get from anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
You're
What
going
are
to learn
those tools?
yeah, you're gonna learn how to be a leader. You're gonna understand what teamwork really looks like. Your work ethic may increase. Your communication is gonna increase, and you make yourself more marketable, right? Because a lot of people in corporate America know what they get with a military person, whether they did X amount of years or retired. They're reliable. They
Mhm.
they can count on you, which is a big deal, right? So
Yep.
those are the things I would say. I would say don't get caught up in the politics, right? Make a decision for yourself and let that be your decision.
Yep. I think that's really important. I think that goes for anything in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can own the decisions that you make, and having been a college advisor of kids who weren't in total ownership of their decisions, as soon as you can step into financially, in your family, in your life, in your career, that you're owning this decision, then you can own all of it. You can own the decision and you can own the consequences of the decision, and you can get on your way to living your best life.
Right.
That doesn't mean that there aren't highs and lows
For
in
sure.
that, right?
For sure.
I had no idea that you could be an athlete and in the military. What other things can you do? So musician, there are musicians, singers, there's different choirs and different bands and all the things that you can be a part of. But what else?
So there's a lot of what you call your military occupation specialties, MOSs, right? When you come in on the enlisted side, like I did, right? So you can be in the band. But part of that, the breakout of what comes with that, there's just different opportunities you can take advantage
Okay.
of. Like there's a soldier show, right? And people travel and they essentially do concerts and go from
Yeah.
installation, right? And put on these shows. But generally speaking, our trades kind of mirror what's out in corporate America. And that's what makes that transition kind of smooth for us. And there's always opportunities that are out there that, gives you like a little introduction to what corporate America is. So you have to take advantage, or at least I recommend, like, get smart on what's available to you, right? Just don't
Mm-hmm.
come in and do what is given to you. Like, look for those other things to kind of build out your experience and build out your resume. So I really think it's up to you, like how much you want to invest in yourself, because there's a lot of opportunities in the military. So you just got to kind of do your research.
Yeah, I think that's important. Doing your research is important, but then also what I'm hearing you say is pick a lane and be intentional about it.
For sure. Yeah.
Be intentional about it. Don't be a victim to it. It wasn't talked about in our household in a positive way. Basically, for lack of a better term, if you're a fuck up, you go to the military. That was how, I mean, growing up, that's what they told us. Like if you're messing up or you're not on a career path, or if you're not doing well in school, you're going straight to the military as if it was a punishment.
Right. I believe that
That,
was the same stigma, like around the time, like when we were in high school together, that kind of was like the energy that was going around, right? Because we would have recruiters come up to Cheyenne, right, dressed in a uniform, and then a small portion of people would go talk to them, but it really wasn't like, it wasn't something that people were telling you to go do.
Mm-mm.
That was not the conversation. It was really, in fact, like, stay away from them, or the stigma that you said, right? You're only going to do it because you're in trouble.
Yep. Yep. But I'm getting a totally different perspective in this conversation from you. Yeah. And for Connor too. So Connor, we enrolled into the Devil Pups, again, just continuing to seek opportunities that he was interested in that would motivate him. He does not love school. So we're just keeping him engaged in other ways into life. Did you like school? Did you like academics, or did you just love being an athlete?
I did, Lisa. So I just don't feel like I applied myself back then as much as I knew I like. Really, what it is like, was I coming to school and working towards my potential? No. I enjoyed cracking jokes, having fun,
Mm-hmm.
being an athlete, and naturally just end up being a class clown. Not that I walked in every day and said, I'm going to do this, but when it happened, it was almost like I had no self control back in those days. It's like I would end up like in the hallway,
Yeah.
right? And then I would think, even in the hallway, like that it was funny, because back then you think like, oh, this is the attention that you want. And then you're losing out on so many more opportunities, right? Like being in a classroom and learning from your peers, being in a classroom and just learning and paying attention to the block of instruction, right?
Yeah.
And so I only realized that those times happen in courses where I just wasn't really interested in. The courses that I was very much interested in, I just would stay in class, and it wouldn't be this joking side of me. Or if it did, it was minimal, but not to the point where I'm going to end up in the hallway.
Right.
So
Right. Gotcha. So you did like school, but there
I
was a
did.
lot of, other stuff going on. Connor was the same way. So anyway, we got him into Devil Pups, which is a teen program. So for parents listening right now, if you're looking for other ways to get your kids involved, this is a superior program where you have to qualify. There's a year-long training to get into Devil Pups, to qualify for Devil Pups. But then he got to go to Camp Pendleton for 7 days and be in a teenage style boot camp
Yeah.
and leadership development. And he came back a changed kid. I think he was barely 13 when he went through. And so there are ways for you to invest in your kids and help them find their own path. The traditional path, what we're finding now more than ever, is that it's broken. Go to school and go to college. So many kids are rejecting that altogether. And that the armed forces is so much more than just, if you're messing up in school, or you're being bad, which is what we learned. It sounds like a really amazing career path. So let's shift gears to money.
Okay.
Okay. What was life like growing up for you?
So
So this conversation is for all of our Cheyenne High School graduates who are going to listen to this. And there are things that went on at homes that we had no idea were going on, or no idea. I never thought about you outside of the school walls because you were my friend at school. But what was life growing up for you?
So from a money perspective, right? My mom at some point was a single parent mother that, she worked and she provided. And so there wasn't necessarily this opportunity to like have an allowance, but I didn't go without, and there wasn't a lot of conversation about finances either, so you were taken care of. I didn't have any kind of worries about anything, where my next meal was coming from. None of that, right? My mom just did the things she needed to do, like to your earlier point, like very intentional, hard worker, that kind of thing. And really, one of the few people that showed me what work ethic looks like. So, but financially, it was just like not talked about at all.
No.
The closest thing to finances I was exposed to while in high school was I took an elective record keeping. Which was beneficial, right? And
Okay.
because, I joined the military, and at the time, this is back in the day, we're using checkbooks.
Yeah.
And so record keeping came in handy because, like, I know how to balance a checkbook. They taught me that, right? And so that was the closest thing to knowing anything about finances, right? In that time period of being 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I paid attention in that class, Lisa.
Good. Good for you. I would not have. Even though ironically I'm a money coach now. That's probably why I didn't choose it as an elective.
Probably.
I chose leadership as my elective.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Well, because I
I'm
was
not
freshman.
surprised.
What?
I'm not surprised though.
Yeah. I was freshman class president, sophomore class president, junior class president, and student body president. So there was the leadership class that we were a part of.
Yeah.
So that was the elective that I was in. When you join the military, it is I know nothing about this actually. So you're going to educate me on this. My assumption is that you're pretty much taken care of.
That's a fair assessment.
What does that mean? And also, how has that impacted your journey with money now in your 40s?
So I would say that, you have a basic allowance for housing, known as BH, right? So based on a particular zip code, it's kind of governed throughout the Department of Defense. So based on a particular zip code and your rank and whether or not you have dependents, there's a chart that kind of shows you what you're going to get, right? That's your BH. Then you have your base pay based upon your rank, the amount of years you've been in, you get a set salary, right? And then you have a dollar amount for your substance, for your food. That's pretty standard. And so combined, that's your income minus taxes, right? And so as you get promoted and navigate your career, your base pay is going to increase. And
is it
also
hourly? Is it salary? What is it?
Salary.
Okay.
It's a known chart. It's open source to anybody that could just Google it. You can find it. And so, for me, the financial side of that is that you get comfortable, right? Because you know that you're going to get a paycheck, short of there being a budget issue or something, right? Which is levels above us. You can't necessarily control that, but you get comfortable because, for the most part, you have a steady paycheck. With that, if you're not mindful of money, you could start to live outside your means and put yourself and your family in compromising situations. So for me, I never did that, just because I'm comfortable living with inside my means and understanding that there are classes that they teach you. Like there's financial readiness courses that people come brief you on along the way. Not all the time, but I've listened to people that kind of showed me the ropes, have been in longer than I had at the time. So kind of paid attention and just knew what not to do.
Gotcha. Cree, my producer, asked this before the show, but do you like hats?
I do. I love hats. I love hats. I have a favorite company. This is a Gorham Brothers hat.
Yeah.
Trucker hat. I wear their fedoras. But you also, I've seen you on your podcast with different hats on too, and throughout the years, right, of being in Vegas and being, linking up with you, that you wear hats too.
I love hats. I'm definitely, I am my most authentic self, which is why I just rolled up in a t-shirt today. I'm my most authentic self in a hat, in a t-shirt, in jeans, rocking and rolling. And I want to show that aspect of money to people on the show because there's not growing up around money. I just drove back through my old neighborhood growing up off of Rancho and Cheyenne. Okay. Yes, a couple days ago, I was on that side of town and I drove through. And growing up, I thought it was the biggest cul-de-sac on the planet.
Right.
And I drove back through and it's, these older homes, they're not very big. They're maybe the biggest one is a couple thousand square feet. And that's my roots.
Yeah.
That's my roots. And at Cheyenne High School, no one had hardly anybody ever had a fancy car.
Right.
Nobody really knew who had money and who didn't, but we all kind of knew that none of us really did. Right? Like it was just a kind of a common thing. The kids with money went to Cimarron. The kids without money went to Cheyenne, but we made it work. And so anyway, I think it's important on this show and in my conversations to have that realness about it. Cause for me, looking at people with money, it feels like sometimes it has to look a certain way and it doesn't,
Right.
you know? Anyway, I digress with the hats because I love your hat, which says cash cow if you can't read it on the show. Or
Right. I told you, I thought it was very fitting for the
it
day.
is.
You can't be on this show and not come prepared.
No, I know. Totally. No, you're ready. You're in it.
No money here.
Real money. What has kept you in the military, Terrence?
A lot of things, right? I think really once I get past of why I joined to be a responsible father, I fell in love with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with of being a part of something that's greater than myself, the amount of people I was meeting from different walks of life, which opened up my eyes to just cultural differences, right? But then also I ran across a lot of great leaders that had been doing this long before I got, and that kind of took me under their wing. And this is back to that conversation of growing up in Vegas. I categorize my upbringing in Vegas as like my village, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think I shared that with you before. It's so many people that have invested in my life that that's exactly what I end up going through in the military. I believe God put a lot of good people in my pathway for whatever reason, and they have willingly invested in me, given me, I would call whatever you want to call it. You want to call it game, wisdom,
Both.
constructive criticism, whatever it may be. They saw something in me to just take me under their wing, and then they just became this thing like I'm just committed to being the best version of myself. And kind of took on that mantra that when I'm talking, I'm like, I'm gonna, be you, be great. And so as I've navigated my career, I'm learning things about myself. I'm challenging myself to be better. And then part of that greatness is just like, let me just continue to see how far I can go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I love that. I love that about you. I really do. And I feel like we're just getting started on this journey.
yes, we are.
So you love being in the military, but also now you have your certifications, and I see you out there on social media promoting yourself, promoting your business. What's next for you in your journey of life?
So I would say that I'm learning, right? It
Mm-hmm.
is very hard to build a brand, very hard to build clientele. I'm going to stay consistent with that, right? I feel like in due time, it'll work itself out. So in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime, I want to continue to grow because I think like that allows me to add value to people's lives. I can't just be what I call a one trick pony, right? I'm gravitating to this one thing, but then I can't relate to a client because all I want to focus on is this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more I learn and grow and have such a diverse background, I'm adding value to their conversation, adding value to the needs that they maybe, need to address at that particular time. So for me, it's being a lifelong learner. I think
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing of like, what's next is just always have that mindset.
Yep. Always have the mindset. Always grow, always learn. You've learned so much as a leader in the military. I know without a shadow of the doubt, there are people that look up to you every single day. I know your kids look up to you. We look up to you here in Las Vegas still. I think our 30-year reunion is probably more around the corner than anything, which is crazy.
I have missed every last one of them. So I know years ago you were posting stuff on social media. So keep me in the
Yeah.
loop for the next one. I haven't made it to any of them. So that would be great to make it to the next one.
Yeah.
And, one of the things when I'm following you, right, and we're keeping in contact, it's not just you, right? And other people that we grew up with but I believe there's a lot of people that graduated with us, either even before with us in 98 and after, that are doing a lot of good things. But
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you being even open to like having this discussion today, right? Because we talked about this like over a year ago, like
Mm-hmm.
being on this podcast. And then here we are, right, having this conversation. And I do hope that people see that there are people that graduated with us that are successful, that are doing things, that are pouring into the community,
Yep.
that are looking to, give back and increase people's life. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
hope that does come of this conversation.
I do too. I really do. Because you wouldn't, with where Las Vegas is today, you wouldn't necessarily think that where Cheyenne is,
Right.
that that would happen. And I do believe that in the same walls that we all came out of, there are still great kids going to that school who have greatness in them and have great futures ahead of them.
Right.
I do believe that. And I've made my way back to Cheyenne over the course of the years, especially when I was a college recruiter. And I do have that belief because every child needs to hear that they are possible. There's circumstances, and this is for everyone. And this is ultimately why I love the work that I do. And I love that you're getting into the life coaching space. It doesn't matter where you come from.
Right.
Those circumstances, that life is there to teach you something. You get to choose, and you do have the ability to have a bright future no matter what path you choose. You chose the military. I chose to go to college and then go work for the university. And now I'm an entrepreneur. And I want to lean into that point that you said about it's hard to build a brand. 'Cause it's not, there's no like, it's like having kids. There's no manual.
Right.
It's not like, here you go. Here's a bright and shiny brand. Here's a bright and shiny business. The difference is that I would assume, and I'm wondering to hear your perspective, is that in the military, there's a roadmap.
There's a blueprint.
There's a blueprint. And as an entrepreneur, there is not.
Right.
Has that been what has been at this point for you the most difficult thing?
In my now pursuing second career or in the military?
Yeah, second career.
So it is really understanding what is working and what's not working, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about the social media posting and stuff like that. You look at the growth that comes with publishing good content, right? You can look back of like, well, let me take a look at my first post, right? And then you look at what your posts look like now, and it's tied to the whole being a continuous learner, right? Like, are you learning from the analytics? What's your audience? What time are you posting? What message are you sending? All these different things tie into that, right? So it's also looking at the research behind it, right? Like, who are you trying to garner attention from and stuff like that. So for me, it is really just establishing myself as the biggest challenge, right? Because anybody can post stuff on social media, but it also being intentional, being deliberate about what you're doing, engaging those that may respond to you or not, right? I think it's a holistic approach. You can't just take shortcuts to it.
Yeah, you can't. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to success. Ultimately, I think that's a great way to wrap up this conversation. There are absolutely positively no shortcuts to success. And anybody that says it's easy is lying.
True.
It's work. It takes work. You are not adverse to hard work. I know that about you. And I honor your journey. I honor your truth. I honor your friendship.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. You challenge me. You ask me questions all the time. I know in a couple of email exchanges that we need good people in our lives to believe in us.
Yeah.
And so today I say, I believe in you. I'm here to support you in your journey. And I know the same that you believe in me and support me in my journey. And that's what makes a successful life, is that there are people in your corner. So thank you for being in mine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wrapping up the show today, what's the thing on your heart to share with the person that's listening to you today?
So this may not be that popular of a statement, but when you're speaking your truth and how I am and who I am, I would simply say this, right? You start asking about like your upbringing with money. Are you having these conversations, right? I would probably say the money conversations are not happening enough within Black communities, right? It's what it is.
Yep.
I think they need to happen more often. The stigma behind whatever happened before our generation or whatever, I don't think that has to be your new journey. I think there's enough information out there to get smart on different investments, how to manage money. So I think like seize the moment to do something different for yourself and for your family and your kids, right? So if I had to add anything, it'd be like we have to just take charge of where we want to be and not focus on how things used to be.
Agreed. Our past do not define who we are or our future.
Yep.
Amen to that. Well, let's keep talking about it, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Terrence. I love you.
All right. Love you too, Lisa.
Thanks for joining me on Real Money today. Open, honest, vulnerable conversations is what I live for, and I hope that you found value in this. If you like this conversation with me and Terrence, make sure you hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you learned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Keep following me, and let's keep having real conversations about money. Thanks for joining me today.